Imagine if you went from feeling fine every day to feeling amazing. How would your life be different? Everyone has the ability to feel amazing again and again. You just need the right tools to get there. If you're ready to feel amazing, stick around. Now, here's the host of the I'm Not Fine show with functional nutrition coach Lizzie Ens.
Welcome back to the I'm Not Fine show, you guys. I'm so excited to dive into today's topic. This is very near and dear to my heart, and I hope you guys are ready for a wealth of information and knowledge here because we're diving right into the topic of dieting, undieting, how it affects your health, and what you can do to get those long-term sustainable results. Because in today's age, in today's world, we live in such a microwaved, Amazon primed world, as I like to call it. And what I mean by that is we want everything quick, we want everything fast, and we want it now. And the reality is, when it comes to your health, doesn't really work that way. Your body doesn't work that way. And when we start to dive in and grab onto, hey, let's go on a detox. Let's go on the next quick fix diet. Let's take the Ozempic shot, whatever the case may be, for those quick results, because we live in that kind of world now. But I want to really, really encourage you guys to really tune in today to why that is not the best approach for you. Because when we do that, that can cause more health issues. One, it's not sustainable. And two, when you go through cycles of that over and over and over, you start to create more health issues in the long run. And so, what we want to dive into today is really, how do you build that foundation and how do you look long term versus short term? That's what we want to get into. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what it even means to undiet, because Undiet You is the name of my company. And that came to me years and years and years ago. Well, not that many years. That sounds like decades. But it came to me back in 2020 when I launched my business. And when I was thinking about what is it that people really need? Because I went through my own phases of dieting and detoxing and doing all those things that eventually led to more health problems. And at the end of the day, I was never happy. I was not happy with my results. It was short term that I was like, oh, I lost 10 pounds in a week. Great. But it was because I didn't eat anything. I only drank, like, lemonade juice. You know, the lemonade diet? That was one of the ones that I did. Lost 10 pounds in a week. But guess what happens after you start eating again? It cleaned my system out, but I was solely doing it to lose weight, and I wanted to do it quick and fast. That's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about microwave results or Amazon Prime results. We want that, right? But hear me out here. You cannot undo 10, 12, 15, 20 years of bad habits in a week, in a month, in 2 months, in 3, or in 6. Now, here's the thing. You can definitely make progress in those short-term time frames, but it's not going to get you to the end result. But that's what we want. And this is the place where a lot of people get very frustrated, is because they want the really fast results. Like, you want that. We all want that, right? Like, we want to start today and say, hey, I want to lose 50 pounds. Let's just say, for example, this is one example. And maybe it took you 10, 20 years to have gained that much weight, right? And now you're at this place where you're like, okay, I want to lose 50 pounds. This is my goal. And you sort of know, like, what happened that got you there. And now you're setting a goal and you're saying, okay, I want to lose 50 pounds and I must do it in the next 6 months. Now, I'm not going to say that it's not possible in order for you to do that, but realistically, that's not sustainable. And a lot of times, this is when we want to do it so fast because we're so impatient. We're very, very impatient with this progress. And that is what gets us in trouble. That's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about grabbing onto the detoxes, the next quick fix fat diet. But it's not really actually fixing anything because at the end of the day, if you are doing a very restrictive diet, the number one question you need to ask yourself is, what is this going to teach me long term? And do I want to do this long term? Do I want to be doing this in 3 months? Do I want to be doing this in 6 months? Now, one thing I want to make very, very clear here is I'm not saying that there are not certain health issues, if you have certain illnesses and health things going on that need a short-term intervention of, hey, you need to, for life or death situation, or your body to actually get rid of what it needs to get rid of and heal very drastically in that period of time. Sometimes we do need to have certain cleanses in place or certain more restrictive diets in place. Let's just say, for example, if you have really high candida, I'm going to give you an example here. If you have high candida levels, which is high yeast in the body, okay, in order to heal and get the yeast in your body to go down, you do need to be more restrictive for a short period of time in order to kill off the candida, help it die down and get it to a lower level. Everybody has candida. It's just a matter of like how high it is. And you got to get those levels down. Sometimes you need interventions in order for that to happen. But it's very important that you do that very, very smart. And then you know how to integrate back into quote unquote a normal way of eating, normal lifestyle. Here's the tricky thing. I've had, conversations with people about what's considered a normal lifestyle. And in today's world, with all the access that we have to food, highly processed food, it's flipped around so much that it almost is as if when you're eating healthy whole foods, you're feeding your body good food, the food that your body actually wants and needs. That is almost as if that's not normal anymore. Like you're looked at like, well, you're not normal because you don't eat the McDonald's, you don't eat the Doritos, you don't eat the highly processed foods. It's flipped where it used to be where if you eat, healthy whole foods that help your body heal and feel good, that used to be like the norm. But because we have gotten so overly populated with highly processed foods, I mean, you just go to the grocery store at Walmart or Target and you just look at the aisles and aisles and aisles of food. I did that last month. I was walking through Walmart and I don't, really buy much food at all at Walmart, but I'm walking through the aisles of all of the shelves that are just stocked full of the processed foods. And on the big grand scheme of things, you think about all the Walmarts there are in the world. And if every single Walmart has the same amount of highly processed foods on the shelves, that's a lot of processed food. A lot. And that's just Walmart. That's not counting counting all the other ones. And so I literally went to myself and I said, this is actually the problem. And so I had a conversation with someone shortly after that where they were talking about food shortages. I said, listen, guys, there is no way in chance there will ever be a food shortage because the food industry wouldn't allow that to happen. Now, where there may be a shortage at some point in time is access to healthy whole foods. if we don't have enough farmers, we don't have enough gardeners, we don't have enough people that are actually growing their own food or providing these types of foods. That's where the problem may lay, but not food, which I don't really call food in general, but not like edible things. Like we're always gonna have access to the food that is on the shelves that's staple for a very long time. So think about that. Keep that in mind, because the other thing that you want to keep in mind is if you have something in your pantry, let's just take like a loaf of bread from like a Wonder Bread. If you take that and you have it on your kitchen uh cabinet or wherever, and that bread stays quote unquote okay, not moldy, or it doesn't go bad for weeks, that's a problem. Like you really, really need to think about those things. So the question you ask yourself is, why is that? Why get, because if you make homemade bread and it's sitting on your counter, that bread's not going to last you much longer than a week before it starts to get moldy. Unless you have like a bread holder. Like we used to make fresh bread every single Saturday. It was the day to make fresh bread when I was growing up. And most of the time that bread didn't last for longer than a week. It lasted less time in the summer because it was warm. And when it gets warm, it gets moldy. So you have to think about the freshness of the products. Here's the thing. Most people are overeducated on the wrong things and undereducated on the right things. I've said it before and I'll say it again. And what do I mean by that? Overeducated on the wrong things means being overly educated in consuming information in terms of you need to try this pill, you need to try this diet, this is what's going to give you the quickest results. All that information. Education on the right things is what is actually needed for your body. Going back to the basics, the foundation of what your body needs. We think, if we just like go online and we look at like what other people are eating or what they're saying that we're eating, and then we need to be eating this for this specific reason and those things. If you don't have the foundation down and fully understanding like what you actually need to be eating just in general, which is healthy whole foods, and you understand your protein, your fats, and your carbs. If you don't understand that and you don't have that foundation down, you got no business going into the fancy things. What, they're not really that fancy, but I like to call them fancy things. The noisy things. Let's call them noisy things. The detoxes and the diet pills and the quick fix diets. You got no business going into that because you don't even understand the basics. So if you don't understand the foundation and the basics, that's where you need to start. I actually have something called the Foundations of Health. And what I do in this, it's a done for you program. And what I do within this done for you program that's called the Foundations of Health is I teach you very specifically on what that foundation should look like for long-term sustainable health. I go into the nutrition part of things and what that can look like for you and what you should be focusing on. And then I go into your water intake and your sleep and your exercise. You actually get a 3-month exercise program with it as well. And so if you're someone that's kind of like in the beginning and you're like, I just need something that actually teaches me what that needs to look like and gets you started, that is for you. And if you are someone that is interested in that and you want to take advantage of that, We're going to drop that link in the show notes. You can also email me at lizzie@undietyourself.live. And I also have it on all of my links in my socials, so you can find it there as well. But that is where you need to start if you have no idea what you actually need to be doing. All right, we got to go to our first break here, but when we come back, we're going to continue to dive into this topic. So guys, don't go anywhere. I'll be right back.
We often get used to just feeling fine instead of reaching to feel excellent or even good. Wellness is about feeling good, and that is a journey of continually coming back to what is nourishing and healing for us. Your body is functional and ever-changing, like a pendulum swinging. We must learn how to move with our bodies. Tuning into I'm Not Fine with functional nutrition coach Lizzie Ens will provide you with simple but effective tools that you can use right away, so you can go from feeling just fine to feeling amazing. Listen for I'm Not Fine on Fridays at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, 2 p.m. Central Time, 1 p.m. Mountain Time, and 12 p.m. Pacific Time on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
Are you a subject matter expert? Are you here to share your expertise with an audience waiting to hear from you in only the way you can deliver? Are you ready to have your voice amplified across the airwaves? Inspired Choices Network has a global radio platform streaming to millions of people across the world. Professionally produced and supported by an accomplished team every step of the way, you can broadcast from anywhere in the world, knowing your voice matters, and we ensure it is delivered with ease and efficiency. Eager to hear your message, the world awaits. Contact us today to become an Inspired Choices Network radio host. Email becomeahost@inspiredchoicesnetwork.com.
This is I'm Not Fine with Lizzie Ens. To participate in the program, join the live studio audience in our chat room at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com. You can also send an email to lizzie@undietyourself.live. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back, everyone. Okay, we're going to dive right into how do you even start getting rid of the dieting mentality? Because for so many years, we've been told we have to diet or be on a diet in order to be healthy. And what I'm going to share with you right now is straight up, that's a lie. You don't. And clean eating, giving your body fresh whole foods, and just being on a nice, balanced, nourishing plan does not equal a diet. Dieting equals restricting. Let me explain this. When you go on a diet, let's just, for example, say you're going to do Weight Watchers, or you're going to do something called, there's one called Take Shape for Life or something like that. It's called something else, MetaFast or Optavia. Going to talk about Optavia. When you're doing something like that, that's considered a diet. But dieting equals restricting. What do I mean by this? It means there's focused so heavily on the things that you can't have that it becomes a negative thing. So when you hear the word diet, automatically your body goes, ugh, like I don't want to do that, but I feel like I have to do that if I want results, because for so many years we've been taught that we need to diet if we want results, but it's an icky word. Now, a diet equals what we consume. So if we just take the word diet, it's what we consume, it's what we eat and take in. But dieting is where the restriction comes in, where you get told about all the things that you can't have. Okay? So what we want to do instead, how do we start this journey of getting rid of that mindset? We want to go back to the basics, just what I was talking about right before the break. I'm talking about going back to the basics and learning, what does your body actually need? What I teach my clients, I always tell them this, is what kids should be learning in high school. And even parents should be teaching their kids this as they're growing up. Just education. It's literally just education on what your body needs and wants without all the noise of the outside world. Give you an example. I tell my kid and I teach my kid about protein and how healthy protein is for you, what it does for him, and why it's important. Okay? So he understands meat equals protein. And he knows that protein is, well, I tell him that it makes him smarter, which it does. But he knows that. And they want to hear that. So when you start teaching your young kids, hey, it's not about you can't have, rather, it's about this is why we're doing it. So if you want to teach your kids these things, even your teenagers and your high schoolers, what you do is you give them an education piece behind it. They're little sponges. They go to school for a reason. They're learning. Why not teach them these things as well? Because that's part of life. And when we can teach them these things when they're young, they're not going to go into the world and go, wow, like I had no idea that if I eat protein, I'll actually feel better and I'll sleep better and I'll have better grades because of my brain can actually function. The same thing with healthy fats. Like one of the things that I'll teach him is when you eat healthy fats and good protein is it makes your brain grow and it makes you be able to think smarter and better. And what little kid does not want to hear that? I was at a friend's house one time and they have two little boys about the same age as my kiddo, and we were going to be making s'mores after dinner. So the one of the kids was like, he didn't want to eat his regular dinner, which was like roast beef and potatoes. And his parents couldn't get him. They couldn't get him to eat his dinner. But they're like, you can't have a s'more until you eat your dinner. Well, he just wasn't going to eat his dinner. So I pulled him over and I just said, "Hey, come here." And he started listening to me and I said, "Hey, do you know what that roast beef does for you?" He's like, "No." I said, "Well, roast beef is protein. And when you eat protein, you get big and strong and it makes you smarter. So if you eat that protein, it will help you with that." Do you know how quickly he went and got that protein and ate the whole thing? Literally. He ate the entire plate of his meat and his potato. And then he had his s'more. And he was so proud of it because he ate the protein and it was going to make him stronger and smarter. That's what kids want to hear. So if we're constantly having to tell them, no, you can't have the bag of Doritos, or no, you can't have the candy, or no, you can't, all they hear is a negative thing behind it. So instead, we want to teach them and educate. It's the same thing with adults. If you have never done the education piece behind it, that's where you need to start. But you need to make sure that it is legit good education and not just what you're reading on the internet. You actually need someone that is teaching you the proper information. When I work with my clients, one of the first things that I have them do is track their food. And here's what I tell them. I say, listen, you're not going to track your food because we're dieting. That's not what this is about. Tracking your food is literally us gathering data and information in order, number one, for me to be able to help you, teach you, and guide you. And number two, it is for you to learn. So if you have never tracked, let me tell you something. It is extremely eye-opening because it allows you to look at, oh, I had no idea that I'm only getting 60 grams of protein a day, but in reality, I actually need double that. Okay, how do I get there? So it helps you plan and it helps you structure. Now, tracking your food isn't necessarily something that you should need to be doing long term. The goal is to track your food, to do it in terms of education, and then you learn how to structure your meals and your days and your weeks based on what your goals are. And you learn how to get more protein in, and you learn how to balance those things. And eventually, after you've done that for a period of time, you won't have to do it anymore because you understand now the portions of what it takes in order to get there. And you also get the feedback from your body. So once you start getting more protein in and getting more balanced nutrients in and your macros and all of that, you start noticing a difference in how your body feels. And it can be different for each individual. Okay. So not everybody's gonna, feel good on the same percentage of macros or calories. It's based on your lifestyle, your body type, how much you're working out. And also the next step from there is what is going on internally. So when I work with you, I do very, very in-depth lab work to figure out and understand what's going on underneath the umbrella. What's going on? And we got to get down to the root of that. And depending on what's going on there, those things have to shift. So again, this is where we gather data. Let's say, for example, someone comes in and they are pre-diabetic. A pre-diabetic plan needs to look differently than someone that doesn't have prediabetes, because now we got other things going on that we need to address. So that is part of the process. But the difference between that and restrictive dieting and being on a diet is that you are literally learning from a foundational standpoint what your body is needing, what you need to be feeding it in order to feel good, and it becomes a way of living. It's a way of life that is sufficient, is sustainable, you feel good, you have energy, you're sleeping well, you're able to play with your kids, if you have kids or grandkids, your bloating goes down, you lose weight, and you're able to keep the weight off. If you stick with it. The hardest part with that is if we have been doing a certain type of way of eating for years and years and years, where you were dependent on highly processed foods and not giving your body what it actually needed. The hardest part is sticking with all of that long term when life happens. What do I mean by when life happens? When you get really busy, when you travel, when you have unforeseen events happen in your life, when you don't have a strong foundation down, it is very, very easy to slip back into old patterns because that's what we knew for so long, and that was the comfort zone. But let me tell you something. I'm sure you've heard this before, but I'm going to say it again. You don't grow in the comfort zone. You don't learn in the comfort zone. One of my favorite things to do is teach clients how to travel and still see results and stay on track with their goals, right? Or if they have parties or events, or are really, really busy, how do you still make your health a priority? It's not even necessarily like, oh, I got to stay on track and not allow myself anything. It's not necessarily that. It is, how do you still put yourself first, your health first, so that when you get through the difficult time or through the travel or whatever the case may be, you don't feel like you've slid all the way back and have to start over. I hear this term all the time where people are like, oh, I fell off the wagon and I got to get myself back up. And the first question I ask them when they say that is, why did you get on the wagon in the first place? And they kind of like go back, like get stumped, like, what do you mean? I'm like, we don't get on wagons here because we're not on a diet. So we're not going to get on the wagon. We're not going to get on the dieting wagon. We're going to learn what it means to be consistent and build a strong foundation and live a life that is sufficient and sustainable. And when we do that, we don't have to get on the wagon, which means we don't fall off the wagon, which means we don't have to get back up, right? It just means we go, hey, that was a very busy week. I wasn't as diligent as I was the week before, but that was life. And I'm going to go back to what I was doing the week before. And you move on and you let it go and you don't beat yourself up for it. All right, guys, we got to go to our next break here. But when we come back, we're going to continue to discuss this conversation here. And I'm going to continue to share more tools and tips and things that you guys can start implementing on a daily basis so that you don't have to get on a wagon and you just learn how to live a healthy, sustainable lifestyle for you. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
We often get used to just feeling fine instead of reaching to feel excellent or even good. Wellness is about feeling good, and that is a journey of continually coming back to what is nourishing and healing for us. Your body is functional and ever-changing, like a pendulum swinging. We must learn how to move with our bodies. Tuning into I'm Not Fine with functional nutrition coach Lizzie Ens will provide you with simple but effective tools that you can use right away so you can go from feeling just fine to feeling amazing. Listen for I'm Not Fine on Fridays at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, 2 p.m. Central Time, 1 p.m. Mountain Time, and 12 p.m. Pacific Time on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
How wonderful would it be to carry your favorite Inspired Choices Network host with you throughout your day? Well, now you can. Inspired Choices Network now has its very own mobile app. Our free app offers live streaming shows, along with thousands of podcasts and TV episodes. Our shows cover a wide variety of topics. Whether you're waking up with us, carrying us through the day, and taking us to bed with you, we're always here for you to enjoy. We're easy to find. Just search for Inspired Choices Network in the Apple App Store or Google Play Store.
This is I'm Not Fine with Lizzie Ens. To participate in the program, join the live studio audience in our chat room at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. You can also send an email to Lizzie at undietyourself.live. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back, everyone. All right, let's keep going here. We talked a little bit about the foundations of health, what it means to get rid of the undieting mindset and mentality. Now, this can take time, okay? So one of the things that I want to invite you in, and I reminded you about and told you about the Foundations of Health program that I have. It's a self-paced program other than you have 3 months in the workout program. I highly, highly, highly recommend that you guys check that out and start with that if you don't know where else to start. The next thing that I want to share with you is if you're like, no, I need someone to really help me, guide me, and you have very specific health issues going on that you can't get answers from with your doctors, I want you to book a consultation with me, and I want to invite you in for that. I could tell you stories and stories and stories of people that I work with that have tried so many things and tried to get so much help from their doctors and got little to nowhere. And they came and started working with me and everything changed. And the difference is that when we really go back and we look at what is that foundation, what are you feeding your body, how are you taking care of your health on a day-to-day basis, that's number one. And number two is what is going on underneath the umbrella. Most of the time, the in-depth lab work and scans and stuff have not been done to fully understand the bigger picture picture and getting to the root of what is really going on. I'm going to share a couple of stories with you because this is what it can look like. Have a client, been working with, this is actually a male because I work with males and females, but this person specifically, lots and lots of health issues that were actually really scary, and did many doctor visits, ER a few times, and it was really scary, like really scary. Didn't know what was going on. Ended up on several medications because it, was detrimental to keeping this person alive. But the reality is there were no clear answers on what was actually going on. They just ran basic lab work, and they did, some scans here and there, and many different types of doctors, even specialists, and nobody found really like what was really the problem. He was like, oh, it's this, and then it's this. Oh, but it's not this, and now it's not this either. Like it was a rat race. Like it was like a circus. Like what is actually really going on? So I finally said, listen, we're gonna do very, very in-depth. Once this person was ready, they came to me and they're like, all right, it's time. Like we got to do this. So, all right, we're ready now. So we did really, really in-depth lab work. And of course, as always, as I suspected, there was a lot of stuff going on. But because they were not doing the in-depth testing, they weren't finding it. And so I said, listen, this is what's going on. And here's where we need to start. First of all, we needed to start on what this person was eating and how he was taking care of his health on a day-to-day basis. Enough water, making sure they're getting good food. Because here's the thing, no matter where you are at, what is going on with your health, you still need to make the nutrition part your number one priority. Number one, period. We can go on as many vitamins and supplements and medications as we want, but if we don't fix our diet and look at what we're feeding on our body on a day-to-day basis, everything else just becomes a band-aid. So we went there, we started feeling better. But I'm going to tell you something. This person had to go to a specialist doctor, whom I will not name. And I actually like this doctor. Because when this doctor looked at all the labs that we had ran, he goes, wow, this girl, myself, actually knows what she's doing. This is very, very thorough. And the feedback that she gave you is accurate based on the labs. And he was like, you need to keep working with her. Here's where I'm going to help you, but please don't stop working with her. Listen to her because what she said is accurate. And I was like, praise Jesus, because it's about time. So with that being said, making massive, massive changes and getting massive results, and that healing journey is happening. But the difference between that and another story is vastly different, because I have another gal. This is a lady that I'm working with, and it has completely different types of things going on with her health. She goes and had to go see a doctor for something very specifically, shows this doctor the labs that we did, and this doctor basically like berates me and says like, hey, like, I don't know why you're working with her. I don't know all the things this doctor said. Well, my client actually stood up for me, because at the end of that conversation, the doctor comes back and goes, oh, her labs are actually really, really helpful because I can see that this is going on. Yeah, this is actually really, really helpful. So in the end, she was thankful for the labs that we did, but she didn't want to believe that what we were doing was helping. Yet this person was very, very close to needing a biopsy on a specific organ when she came to me. when she started working with me, we changed a lot of things and got her on very specific things to help her. And the last time that she went to the doctor for the testing for the specific organ that was in trouble, the numbers had improved so much just based on what we were doing that the doctor didn't even call her back. And that is the form of like, hey, no news is good news. So he like looked at the updated labs and he's like, oh, well, everything's fine. Things are looking good and they have improved so much. He didn't even call my client back. And so those are the differences that we can see. But the reason I'm sharing that with you is because that is why it is so incredibly important to get the right type of testing done and then do the right work after that. The place where many people get stuck. This is where many people get stuck. It's the gap between the diagnosis from the doctor, or not the diagnosis, but the diagnosis from the doctor and knowing what to do. So it's like, hey, this is what I'm told is wrong. And over here, it's like, I kind of know what I need to do, but not really. And they may tell you, hey, you need to take these vitamins and you need to adjust things on your diet here, and then you're on your own. That gap in between is where majority of people get stuck because they're literally like, I don't know what to do because of the education piece. And this is where I go back to what I was telling you about the education piece. Listen, it's my job to teach you and educate you on why we're doing what we're doing, not just tell you what to do. The education piece is what makes you feel equipped. Okay? It's what makes you feel like, hey, I understand now. I understand what to do, how to do it, and why I'm doing it. That is the missing piece. Whereas if you're dieting, they tell you what to do, but they don't tell you why. Other than you need to do this in order to lose weight. That is the difference. My job, as I said, is to teach you, educate you, and show you, hold your hand along the way and show you why we're doing what we're doing. Then you do the work, you apply the things. And what that does is it gets you to a place where you now feel self-sufficient, you feel educated, and you can go and be on your own. This is what I tell every single person. I said, listen, my job is not to keep you here forever. If you're working with me, my job is not to work with you forever. That's not my goal, and that's not what I want, and that's not what you want. You want to get so educated that you become so self-sufficient that you can advocate for yourself and you can be on your own. You want to be able to, if you, God forbid, have to go see a doctor, you want to be able to walk into that doctor's office and go, listen, this is what I know. This is what I've done. Something is off. Here's what I need. And you advocate for yourself. And if it is a good doctor, he's going to say, okay, you're educated. You understand. Here's how I can help you. But that's kind of like finding a needle in a haystack sometimes, because at the end of the day, sometimes you're just another number. And I hate to say that because here's the reality. I don't hate doctors. I hate the system. And I think that the system is broken. And we could go on a whole tangent on that. I actually did a podcast early on in this show, probably about a year ago, where I talked about the medical system is broken. Now what? And I have these conversations almost on the daily with people, sharing stories with me about what happened in their health journey and how they did or did not get help. And so always keep this in mind. When you go to a doctor to get labs done, here's the number one thing that I need you to understand. They are looking for diagnosis. They're not looking for the missing pieces or the prevention. In the functional field, we are looking for pieces of the puzzle that are missing that you need in order to help your body heal and also in terms of prevention. But that's not what happens. Doctors are taught to diagnose and prescribe. That's their job. Diagnose and prescribe. And if anything is not in the red zone, in order for them to diagnose, they can't help you. And if they don't know how to help you, they will probably refer you out to a specialist or a different doctor, or they'll just end it all and be like, hey, there's nothing wrong with you. You're fine. Go eat 1,200 calories a day and exercise and lose weight. That's the answer, because they don't know what else to do. So always remember that, like, that is part of the system, and the system is broken. All right, we got to go to our last break here. When we come back, I'm going to go through a few steps of things that I want you to think about in terms of short-term goals, long-term goals, and what you can put in place to get yourself started, but also think about that sustainable part of it. Like, what can you do? So don't go anywhere, you guys. I'm Lizzie Ens, your host on the I'm Not Fine show on the Inspired Choices Network. We'll be right back.
We often get used to just feeling fine instead of reaching to feel excellent or even good. Wellness is about feeling good, and that is a journey of continually coming back to what is nourishing and healing for us. Your body is functional and ever-changing, like a pendulum swinging. We must learn how to move with our bodies. Tuning into I'm Not Fine with functional nutrition coach Lizzie Ens will provide you with simple but effective tools that you can use right away, so you can go from feeling just fine to feeling amazing. Listen for I'm Not Fine on Fridays at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, 2 p.m. Central Time, 1 p.m. Mountain Time, and 12 p.m. Pacific Time on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. This is I'm Not Fine with Lizzie Ens. To participate in the program, join the live studio audience in our chat room at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. You can also send an email to Lizzie at undietyourself.live. Now, back to the program.
All right, you guys, we're going to dive into the last section of this, and I'm going to give you some actionable steps that you can start applying into your day-to-day life now. Real quick, before I go into that, just remember, there's a couple places that you can start if you want some help along the way, okay? If you need some support, you need some guidance and understanding, and you just want something that you can commit to. Here's the thing. There is nothing wrong with you, and there is nothing wrong with hiring someone to help you. I just recently hired my own coach, and I've had different coaches and mentors for different things over the course of a few years now, and I probably will always have one, because that is what keeps you accountable. That is what helps you stay on track as well. And I will tell you straight up, like, just hiring my own macro coach and nutrition coach just for some accountability based on the goals that I want has made a massive, massive difference just in a few weeks. It makes me excited because I get to talk to someone about the hard things, but I also get to talk to someone about my wins and my goals, and we're making progress. So it gave me a new set of motivation. So there's nothing wrong with that. So if you are someone that feels like you need that kind of support and help and guidance, please book a consultation with me. Let's have a conversation and really dive into that and get you feeling better. And also, if you're someone that's like, hey, I just want a done for you program, click the link in the show notes and grab my Done For You Foundations of Health program. And that will really, really set you up to get started and build a really strong foundation as well. So where do you want to start? Well, the education piece is where you want to start. You want to make sure you have the right type of education. But what I will tell you right now is if you have not ever tracked your food and understand like what that needs to look like, honestly, I would say just track for about a week without any kind of goals and just gather data and information. Use MyFitnessPal and just like literally put everything in there. Don't listen to anything they're telling you in terms of like, these are what your goals need to be. This is what you need to shoot for. 9 times out of 10, MyFitnessPal is wrong because they don't know who you are. That's kind of like a robot that's just telling you. So what I usually tell people is just track for a week with no goal set and just gather information and data on where you're at. And then from there, you start building onto that. And I'm going to tell you right now, protein is your number one priority. If you have not gone through my protein push challenge, you definitely should. It's everywhere on my socials, in my YouTube, lots of in my show links. You want to go through that. It's a 5-day free protein push challenge. You can go through that and it will absolutely teach you how to implement more protein in. I have meal plans. There's so many options that you have. You can find that stuff literally everywhere, but start there. Make water a priority. That's part of the foundations. Please, please, please make water a priority. You need to be hydrated in order to detox, to get rid of things, and to feel good, help with your energy, your sleep, your mood, your brain fog. Water is a big, big, big piece of that. You should be getting no less than a gallon a day. And most people aren't even getting that. And a lot of people are getting like 40 to 60 ounces a day. A way to implement that up slowly is say, hey, for 3 days, I'm going to add 10 more ounces. And you get accustomed to that. And then you continue on from there and you just keep adding a little incremental steps to that. Make sleep a priority. You must get sleep. Go to bed around the same time every night. Get up around the same time every morning. Create consistency. Get rid of, put a digital detox in place where an hour before you go to bed, your phone's off. You're not scrolling on social because that will prevent melatonin kick in as it should. Melatonin needs to kick in and that can really, really disrupt your sleep. So create a consistent sleep schedule and then get some movement in. You must get movement in, exercise. If you're not doing anything, please start walking 30 minutes a day. 30 minutes. You got 30 minutes. Trust me. You have 30 minutes. Get active. If you're already walking, start getting into some kind of workout routine because working out and getting exercise like that in, super, super, super important for your metabolism, your bone health, your skeletal muscle health. If you want to lose weight and you want to drop body fat and you want to gain muscle, you need to do that. But just overall general health, you also need to do that. Because in today's world, we're pretty sedentary. And we need to bring that in because we're just not farmers like they used to be back in the day. Unless you are a farmer and you're out on the fields. Absolutely. Those are my steps for you. And I want you to really think about, is that going to help you in your long-term goals? Those are short-term and short-term habits that lead into long-term habits and into your long-term goals. So think about that. And then the last thing that I want you to think about is, what you're doing now supporting your long-term goal? If it's not, you got to change it and you got to fix it. So always remember that. Short-term versus long-term. All right, you guys, this was amazing. I hope you got a lot out of this. Remember, your health starts within. And your short-term goals lead into your long-term goals. Learn to celebrate that. I'll see you guys next week.
Thank you for listening to the I'm Not Fine show. Lizzie Ens returns Fridays at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, 12 p.m. Central Time, 11 a.m. Mountain Time, and 10 a.m. Pacific Time on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. Until then, have the best week of your life by making choices that take you from feeling fine to feeling amazing.